All right, so we're diving into something pretty wild today.
Definitely interesting.
Really interesting. We're talking about the Teamsters
Yeah.
and their unusual stance this election season. Usually unions are big players, endorsing candidates, rallying their members.
Right. A lot of history there, a lot at stake.
Exactly. But the Teamsters, they just pulled a total U-turn.
Yeah. And it's not just any union, right? We're
Yeah.
talking 1.3 million members.
1.3 million. Truckers, freight handlers, the folks who keep America moving. And get this is the first time since, get ready for it, 1996.
Yeah.
1996, that they haven't endorsed a presidential candidate. So naturally, we got to ask
The big question.
the big question,
Yeah.
why? What's going on with the Teamsters?
Well, to really grasp how huge this is, think about what a union endorsement means, especially from a powerhouse like the Teamsters.
Yeah, they're not exactly small potatoes.
No, not at all. Historically, they've been this massive voting bloc, especially in those swing states, those nail-biters that often decide the entire election.
Right, those states with a big Teamster presence. Places like
The industrial heartland, think Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, places where those union votes carry a lot of weight.
And didn't those very states flip the script last election?
Absolutely. So for the Teamsters to hold back their support this time, it's not just symbolic, it's strategic. It hints at a potential power shift, not just within the union, but maybe in how those traditional labor strongholds are seeing this election.
Which makes you wonder, what does this say about the Democrats and their relationship with a group they've relied on for so long? Biden, with his unions built the middle class line, he really leaned into that blue collar support. So if the Teamsters aren't feeling the love this time around, should the Democrats be worried?
It's a question that goes right to the heart of this election. And to really get the answer, we need to dig into the reasons behind the Teamsters' decision. This is uncharted territory for them.
So let's unpack this whole non-endorsement thing, because it's not like the Teamsters just stayed quiet,
Right. They definitely made their position known.
They did. And they didn't mince words, did they? They released a statement. But even more interesting, they actually ran an internal poll. And the results,
Yeah, that poll certainly got people's attention.
to say the least. It turns out that a whopping 60% of Teamster members favored Trump over Harris. Can you believe that?
It is a surprising figure, especially given the Teamsters' history.
Surprising. It's practically unheard of. 60% of a union that's historically sided with Democrats favoring Trump. Makes you wonder if there's a disconnect.
It does raise questions about whether union leadership and the rank and file are seeing eye to eye these days, at least when it comes to politics.
And the Teamsters, to their credit, seem to acknowledge that disconnect. In their official statement, they said, I'm quoting here, "Neither candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business." Powerful stuff, right?
It is a strong statement, prioritizing workers' needs over party lines.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Were policy concerns the only factor at play here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because there's another layer to this whole saga, and it revolves around Sean O'Brien.
This Sean O'Brien guy, he's a real piece of work, isn't he?
He's certainly a fascinating figure, and his leadership is shaking things up within the Teamsters, that's for sure.
Shaking things up is an understatement. This is the same guy who just this year spoke at the Republican National Convention,
An unusual move for a major union leader.
to say the least. And then there is his meetings with Trump, aligning himself with some pretty right-leaning figures.
Right.
It's not every day you see a union boss rubbing shoulders with folks who aren't exactly known for being labor-friendly.
It certainly has people talking and speculating about O'Brien's true motivations and what his end game might be.
Is he deliberately trying to move the Teamsters to the right? Is this some calculated power play? It's hard to tell what's going on in that head of his.
It's a bold strategy, that's for sure. And it's not without its critics, even within the Teamsters themselves.
Oh, absolutely. You've got the Teamsters National Black Caucus. They came out swinging, publicly criticizing the non-endorsement, calling for closer ties with progressive groups.
Right, and then you have those local chapters, like the ones in Michigan and Nevada, openly endorsing Harris, directly contradicting their national leadership. Talk about a divided house.
It really highlights the tightrope. O'Brien's walking here, trying to appease a membership that's clearly split, while also navigating the current political landscape. And let's be honest, it's a bit of a minefield out there.
It is, and these challenges facing the Teamsters, they go way beyond just the election.
You're right. Because remember, the Teamsters aren't just making waves in the political arena. They've also been fighting and winning some major battles for their workers.
Yeah.
Like their big showdown with UPS earlier this year. That was huge. Things basically ground to a halt. Everyone was watching that.
It was a stark reminder of how essential those workers are and how much power unions still have when they're willing to flex their muscles.
And flex they did. The Teamsters, they stood their ground, fought hard, and in the end, they got what they wanted. Better pay, better benefits, safer conditions for those UPS workers.
A major win for hundreds of thousands of people. And for labor in general.
No doubt about it. But here's where things get really interesting. This whole non-endorsement strategy. It might actually be playing right into their hands, at least when it comes to future negotiations.
That's right. Because by refusing to align with either party, the Teamsters maintain their independence. They're beholden to no one, which gives them more leverage at the bargaining table. They can play hardball with both sides.
So they're essentially saying, if you want our support, whether it's for a contract or at the polls, you got to earn it.
Precisely. It sends a very clear message that the Teamsters are putting their members first above all else.
And frankly, that's kind of refreshing in this hyper-partisan world we live in.
It is, but let's not forget, the Teamsters, like the rest of the labor movement, they're facing an uphill battle these days.
You're right. Automation is changing the job market faster than ever. The gig economy is changing the rules of the game. These are major challenges, no matter who's in the White House.
The Teamsters are on the front lines of a rapidly evolving economy. How they adapt to that, how they navigate these new realities, that's what will determine their future.
So where does that leave us? We've got this historic non-endorsement, internal divisions within the Teamsters, their president making some pretty bold moves, and the whole future of work hanging in the balance. What's next? What's the takeaway here?
Well, one thing's for sure, the Teamsters have everyone's attention. Their strategy, whether it's a one-time thing or a sign of a bigger shift, it remains to be seen. But it has major implications, not just for labor, but for the political landscape, for the future of work itself.
It's a powerful reminder that in this day and age, no one can afford to stay silent, not when the stakes are this high. So to our listeners, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the Teamsters' unexpected move? Is it a power play, a sign of the times, something else entirely? Let us know, because this is a conversation that's far from over.